GM, we are live and we are waiting for one in a 20-second schnauzer. So if you have not already maxed your schnauzer allocation, well, it's too late now. It is full. We are off and running this morning. Tyler, GM Bindles, GM 100. Yes, we hit 100. I had a family trip. I was actually in Scotland for the last 10 days or 11 days, so I couldn't stream. I thought I'd have some time to go through some slow drafts while I was there, and I didn't. I had absolutely no time to do any of this stuff. So this is I'm just hopping right back in. I really don't know what the meta even is. I did a couple drafts last. My understanding is that RJ Harvey has begun to drop precipitously because of the J.K. Dobbins signing. I know we're a little worried about Ken Walker. Apparently he's hurt yet again. And we'll see what the room gives us. Crander47, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate everybody joining me again after my hiatus. Hope to really not miss too many of these streams. Might be forced for a short stint out. Might miss Friday or Monday of this coming week, but we'll see. We'll try to keep a good cadence so that we are so that we can keep doing these, because I love doing these with you all and hanging out and just talking some best ball in the morning. We see Jefferson going at 2. I feel like we've seen this more lately, but I will be more than happy to take a little Bijan Robinson to start the draft. So I'll pull up the draft board. Again, this is a 20-second schnauzer, so this should rip pretty quickly. I'm going to try to do a BBM this morning, so we'll see. I fired up a 30-second, and it was nowhere near filling, and then the 20-second was also not that close. So also, being that I haven't done much drafting in the last 2 weeks, I don't want to waste my BBM bullets on a complete dud, not in front of everybody. So fired up a schnauzer. I have, I think, 15 of them. I did a few, again, right when I got home with some mixed results, but definitely glad to be back with you all. Hartman, GM, thank you for stopping by this beautiful Tuesday morning here. I hope everyone is having a good start to the week. I saw we had the flippening. We had CMC officially flipped Jeanty in ADP, which is interesting. In this draft, we have Derrick Henry at 8, which I don't think is a new thing. I think that's just Dr. Best Ball getting excited about having Derrick Henry on his team, which who can blame him? Who can blame him after he has shoved it down our throats every year? But here we are. We are back at it again. Derrick Henry going at 8. Jeanty has not gone yet. Jeanty at 14. That is late. Again, I don't think that's the reflection of anything too new. I don't think that's a very common fall for him. But again, with Amon-Ra coming out that he had a knee scope or knee cleanup, it was described as very minor surgery. I'm not surprised to see him start sliding a little more towards the back end of the first round, just because, we have a tendency to react strongly to that kind of news. And these guys are kind of a flat tier. So if you're tie breaking between Neighbors, Nico, BTJ, I certainly understand, trying to moving back Amon-Ra a couple of spots. Now, being that we started with Bijan, I would not be opposed to Bijan Bowers or Bijan Bucky. Rashee Rice has been screaming up the draft boards. So I'm going to do a little robust RB. I was hanging out with my boomer parents for the last 11 days. So starting out RB feels fitting. We can get a truly boomer start in honor of them. So hopefully they would enjoy this draft. So we've got Bijan and Bucky to start with. I probably will not take a third running back. This really probably will just be a wide receiver, even if I get a McBride, who I'm pretty high on, or Chase Brown, who I think I prefer a little over Josh Jacobs, but I don't know if I want to take him ahead of Jacobs every time, or we'll simply end up with no Jacobs. My preference here would be Garrett Wilson or Tyreek Hill. I'm certainly becoming a little more Tyreek Hill pilled lately. I feel like just the news coming out of Miami feels more bullish than it had been earlier. He's running, he ran a 10.5, 40, which is, or 100-yard dash, which is absolutely blazing fast, like Olympic level speed. So I am definitely back in on Hill. I would have taken him there, but instead I will take MHJ. I haven't drafted much Saquon. Still hoping for the fabled draft where he falls to 4 or 5. He gets to 4 or 5 sometimes. Usually it's when somebody's really excited about Lamb. It's not, Jefferson goes at 2 so frequently. Like Saquon's kind of, at 3 a lot. And, I do think you can get Saquon at 4 or 5, but I think if you only take him at 4 or 5, you're only going to get like 4 to 5% of him, I would guess, rather than your like standard 8%. But yeah, it is interesting how different your draft looks when you take a receiver, a running back in your first 4, especially because the wraparound, you end up with Taylor or Bucky a lot. And to me, that's a lot more tempting than like Rashee Rice or Higgins. I feel like they're stronger. So there's a tendency in my mind to prefer to start RB there, which then like later on, it starts off feeling pretty good. And then you're looking at your wide receiver room, kind of squinting, hoping to kind of pull it out of the fire. I think I would have felt better with Wilson or Tyreek versus ending up with MHJ as my receiver 1. But again, I don't mind that. I think there's a pretty good chance we see Marvin Harrison kind of make that leap forward. Pretty bullish on the Cardinals offense this year. So I don't mind that. James Young, GM, how you been? I'm great. I was on a family trip. I joined like 25 slows with the intention of like streaming my slow drafts and just did not have enough time to hop on. Turns out traveling with parents and a 2-year-old is doesn't give you as much free time as as you would think. And I guess you wouldn't even think you'd have any free time. So there I was doing my slow drafts on my phone whenever I got a free second. And so some of the teams are terrible. I autoed a bunch of picks. Would not recommend it. Would not recommend it, but my heart was there. I like even made like a slow draft hell thumbnail with like fire and flames. It was going to be a whole thing. Never happened, but maybe someday we will get to do it. I think I'm going to take Devonta here. There's a chance I could get Hurts on the wraparound. I'm a little agnostic whether I get Hunter or Smith here, so I'm going to go ahead and take Smith. Maybe tiebreak it a little towards not having 2 week 8 buys, but I'm not really too much of a bye week bro. If I can get the Hurts stack, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm going to take one of these receivers. I think I might just have to pass on Kittle as much as I like him because of the detour at wide receiver that I made. I'm worried about falling a little bit too far behind there. Although if I take a quarterback, I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. But I do think getting that stack would be worth pushing receiver to later. Right now, these ranks in there are the newest Davis Maddock ranks. I like his ranks quite a lot, even if I have a tendency to IKB things every now and then. I generally think that he has very good rankings. They're available on his Patreon, which I also highly recommend. Let's see how he has the receivers ranked. Yeah, Pickens, Waddle, Flowers in that order. And I think that's what I would have. I think I would take Waddle ahead of Flowers. Das Snowman 1021 GM. Thank you so much for coming by. I feel like I've seen you around on Twitter. I don't know if I just made that up. If so, I apologize. But great to have you here. Thanks so much for stopping by. We're going to see if we can't get this little Jalen Hurts stack. And yeah, we're going to get it. A little bit of ADP value on Hurts. I'll never say no to Hurts past pick 50. Okay, that's not true. I don't always take him past pick 50, but he feels like a nice value there. Definitely a chance for him to be the QB1 this season. And now again, going to be catching up quite a bit at receiver, but hopefully hopefully we can make that happen. Now I will pull the board back up, see if anything too out of the ordinary happened. Terry McLaurin has kind of been a bit of a faller lately, so he ends up pairing up with Daniels here. It's kind of interesting. Before, you were getting McLaurin a little further to the left, and then occasionally Daniels falling into the late 50s. So these two here maybe typically get paired with guys more towards the left in earlier contests, but I guess this is a time boxed brand new Schnauzer, so that's going to be different here. Regardless, I don't see anyone doing anything, again, too crazy. This twin 34 going triple RB. That's new. That is how I knew you were streaming Twitter. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming by. I know Elon does not like when people tweet out links. Those just get absolutely crushed. So I'm glad you were able to stop by, despite their efforts to keep us down. I've thought about about doing this on Twitter as well. I know some people have their streaming set up to where they are kind of simulcasting, but I don't know if I want to do that, because again, a lot of my Twitter originally was like crypto stuff, and then they're all absolutely going to unfollow me if they start seeing like random best ball videos. So we'll see. We'll see if I decide to do that, but for now I will keep the best ball streams to YouTube only. Trying to see, this guy paired up Allen and Cook. Cook feels like he has been a bit of a riser now that he has come back to camp. RJ Harvey at 61. Yeah, there. So this guy gets both fallers in one, which is, I don't hate that, because, if this Ken Walker injury is minor and this is just one of those like June things that happen, that's like 7 or 8 picks of ADP value he's getting. And RJ Harvey, I don't think it was realistic to expect him to shoulder, any kind of bell cow workload. Certainly Dobbins is very capable. To me, this really just tanks Estime and McLaughlin, makes them virtually undraftable. And, certainly not like a positive for Harvey, but I don't know if it's as bad as maybe people just weren't weighting the split as likely as I personally thought was going to happen. Artillery Frost, GM, thank you so much for coming by this morning and hanging out with this little 20-second Schnauzer that we have fired up. Hopefully there are not a complete absence of receivers for us to take here. Debo, Myers, and Pearsall. Matthew Golden is the highest according to the ranks. I think I'm going to agree with Davis's ranks here and take Matthew Golden. Someone made the point, and I forget who it was, and I apologize. They said that we were taking two Packer receivers in the top 40 last year, and then they finally go ahead and spend a first-round pick, which they never do, on a receiver, and now we're like pushing him into the 6th round. So I do think that's a pretty fair point for that. We might be like kind of underestimating Matthew Golden a little bit, especially based on historically where we have been taking Packers receivers. They don't necessarily have the best playoff schedule, but I do like Golden quite a bit. And I think there's a chance if they lean more pass than we're expecting, there could be a little bit of upside in some of the Packers pass catchers. And we're kind of writing them off as just being a super plotting, run heavy team. I really screwed the pooch in the Steph Dynasty auction, which how much I bid on T-Mac and Gene T. I think I missed the first day of bidding, and I'm like very confused because there's multiple copies of players. And so I don't know if I've already like missed out, or the Cam Scatabo that's up is like the last Scatabo. I am in way over my head in that league. Artillery Frost. I feel like I'm going to end with a bunch of money in my in my till that I won't be able to spend. So I've got Myers or Pearsall. I think I'm actually going to take Pearsall ahead of Myers in this situation. And now I'm really confused. Did Joe Burrow go around twice? Yeah, Joe Burrow is all the way back at pick 77. This is very odd. the Jamar Chase T. Higgins drafter pushed Burrow successfully and then didn't take him. And then the Chase Brown drafter gets him. I've never seen that in any draft I've done this season. That is very, very odd. I'm in on Golden, but his profile is so scary. I know. It is. It does feel like he and Scatabo both in that playoff game have really, like, I think that game was very high profile, and Golden made that huge catch to win or to send the game into double overtime, and Scatabo had that like breakout on national TV. And so I wonder where both of those players would be taken if that game hadn't have happened. Like, they have to be huge changes in ADP and how they're kind of perceived in our heads based on that one game. But yeah, I think, it's weird with the wide receiver room in Green Bay is so crowded. You almost think that somebody has to be moved out of there, but I do worry that there could be like a very heavy rotation. I mean, we know Reed is a rotational player, but it could be even more than we're kind of expecting. But now, I said no one was doing anything weird, but Boyd went receiver and has now taken 5 straight running backs. So that makes me feel a little better about opening RB because now I'm not in a position where I need to like grab them because we have one player really hoovering up running backs. Pacheco at 74, that's definitely higher than I'd seen him going previously. Before he might have been there at 95. I don't know if that's just a reach. He wanted to get his guy. He doesn't have any kind of Denver or Kansas City thing going. But also this is a Schnauzer, and sometimes you just can't read too much into what people are doing because sometimes people just do odd stuff in these drafts. With that said, Egbuka is interesting. There's no real ADP value on the board. I'm picking next at pick 100. I'll take Jordan Mason here. Again, a player that I don't really mind having. Definitely is going to have some kind of role there. Could be the goal line back. Could be more than that. I'm never going to complain too much about him as my third back. One of those guys that has a job, but also has pretty significant contingent upside. Looking at a second QB, I could potentially take Kyler Murray and then just shut it down at quarterback and do a 2 QB build. If Murray comes back to me, Egbuka would be, I think, not a bad choice when I'm trying to potentially catch up at running back. I think my plan was to take either Egbuka or Trey Harris. If both of them are gone, then I might take Kyler and again end at make this a 2 quarterback team. I know 3 quarterback is the current meta. 3 quarterback is how I prefer to build, but would like to stay flexible. Hartman says Schnauzers are the time to experiment. I fully agree. there. If you're going to try odd stuff or you just want to get your guys, then Schnauzer season is probably the way to go. But I'll add Trey Harris, as tempting as it was to take Kyler there. I should get a crack at Herbert, possibly. No, not Purdy. He's not going to be back. But Love will likely be there at my next pick if I want to build a stack. So, again, would have been interesting to potentially take Kyler there, but being that my wide receiver 3 is Matthew Golden, that's pretty sketchy. I think the time was now to add another a young receiver because this, one of these 3 is going to be hitting my lineup every week, and that's potentially not the best. But as Hartman points out, Schnauzers are the time to experiment. So we are trying some stuff. Let's see if we pull up the board. We will see if Austin Boyd takes another running back or not. Also, by the way, if you are not subscribed, please like and subscribe. It really helps. I just broke 100 subs, which is really exciting for me, and I'm going to try to keep it going. All right, so there goes Kyler. Kyler goes unstacked, but that's not too unexpected. You can take him unstacked, and he was pretty well past ADP at that point. Our friend Austin Boyd adds Brock Purdy and Luther Burden to his cavalcade of running backs. So, I don't know if Austin Boyd has a plan or he's just taking guys he likes, but he's certainly having fun in this schnauzer. Let's see, coming up at 117, I do need a tight end. I would love Evan Ingram if he falls to me. I could potentially take, if Kyle Williams comes around, take Williams and then see if we can push Drake May around the corner with a couple of QBs ahead of him in ADP. If not, then Justin Herbert should be there around the turn, but you never know because I think the lad drafter is over here and he just passed and took Marvin Mims. So there goes Ingram. If we can get Kyle Williams, I would take him. And then hopefully I will get one of Drake May or Justin Herbert here. Again, adding another rookie. We've got a very young wide receiver room here. But let's see if we live to regret that choice. If May and Herbert go, then we can take Jordan Love. So we should be able to get some stack here. If that doesn't happen, then we have made a mistake, folks. Then we have really gone awry. Of course, the eternal question is, should I stack Drake May with my wide receiver 6? Should I stack, had Love been there with my third receiver? To me, that's a little bit of an interesting thought exercise. What matters more, that little bit of ADP value or the little bit of projectability in your quarterback and who you're stacking with? I would have leaned towards May just because I think May can get there with the rushing upside more than the other guys could. That said, they are saying that Herbert might run a little more this season, which I think is interesting. But I'm going to make this little bet on Drake May here. And again, my 5th receiver versus my 6th receiver. I think it's, I'm not saying that. I do not think Trey Harris projects that much differently than Kyle Williams this season. So I am happy to take Drake May there. Obviously, I will need to take a tight end at some point, but this is going to be one of those teams where I take 3 late tight ends. Going back to the board, the Mahomes drafter, let's see, he has Worthy. So Twin 3434 has a little bit of a plan after taking 3 early running backs, has focused on some of the other positions, also adds Hollywood Brown to his Mahomes stack. Nobody has taken Herbert, but I would be absolutely stunned if Herbert gets there. Back to me at 141, especially again with the lad drafter over here. So yes, Herbert goes to Austin Boyd, who I do not know what Austin Boyd is doing. He now has Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, and Justin Herbert. Takes David Njoku, who I really like. So he's got that going for him, but not sure what all Austin Boyd is doing here. I lean a little towards the ADP value because it might be slightly more unique. Tough call though. Yeah, Hartman, it's one of those things that it's a huge decision. You're only going to have this exact team once and you're going to pair that quarterback. One is going to be better than the other. It's literally little decisions like that can end up deciding so much. But that's what makes this fun, is that it's not all preordained. We don't have a set formula. We're not just drafting purely off of ADP. We have to make these kind of calls on the fly with a short clock. I will take Dallas Goedert if he's here. If not, I will capitulate to Big Kincaid. We'll see. I don't think Dark Mark is going to do me wrong and take Goddard. No, I will take Goddard here. It is unfortunate that Jack Betch has been getting so much FUD. He apparently is running mostly with the second team behind Tyquan Thornton. over there in Las Vegas, and I took some Thornton late in some of the other contests because he does seem like he brings something different to the team. Now, that was not because I thought he would be playing ahead of Betch. It was because I thought he had his own value. So it's interesting to see that Betch has been falling quite a bit. I think Betch, again, my biggest comp to Betch before the season was Jacoby Myers. So they're kind of an odd fit together. I don't think he's just going to be Myers' backup, but I don't know how things are going to shake out there. But I really do hope that he is able to find his way onto the field. I will probably queue up Isaiah Likely, take another tight end here, and then just add one tight end very late to the team. I don't think any of these receivers are significantly better than some of the options I can pick up later. None of them really made sense as far as a potential stacking partner. Maybe an argument for like a sneaky Michael Penix as a QB3 if I wanted to make this a 3 QB build because I have Bijan, but Dante, you said Taekwondo. Yes, I apologize. And X Wall, thank you for correcting me there. As soon as I said it, I said, I don't think, I feel like I'm getting mixed up. And I said, no, I'm right. And I was wrong. So thank you. Yes, I took the wrong Thornton. One Corain, his BBM. The other Thornton is a 5th round rookie for Las Vegas. Thank you. All right, let's see. Again, not sure if I'm going to try to add a late quarterback to this team. I don't have any late stacking partners that are really sticking out. Again, I could potentially, if Geno comes around, take Geno and Thornton, which I really like Geno this season. I think Geno has quite a bit of upside. And then I could take my my sneaky late round tight end that goes undrafted in most contests. That's a little tease to get people to stick around. Not to be confused with Torrey Horton. Here's a who, the 5th round rookie for the Seahawks. Yeah, I don't want to say a lot. I take MVS when I need like the late Seahawk ad. And I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's right. I think that's one of those things we're going to get more clarity as the season goes on, but you have to make these calls in the time box contest. I'm going to take Geno, and we will add Thornton. We will add Thornton as a 7th receiver to this team, I think. And I like how this team is coming together. Hunter Henry is a potential add instead of my quote unquote sneaky tight end who might just be bad. I don't know about, I could potentially add Braylon Allen or Rico Dowdle. I haven't taken a wide receiver in quite some time. I'm higher on the ZR, on the Raiders than I thought I would be. Yeah, they're a really interesting team. They're going to play up tempo. I think their defense is going to be bad. They should be in some good game scripts. Like, I think they could be one of those like good, bad teams, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just going to take Braylon Allen here. Kind of a meat and potatoes pick. I know my Thornton, I think I can get in the 16th round. I know he's been a little bit of a riser, so I'm not going to push him to 17. The quote unquote sneaky tight end is our friend Mr. Michael Mayer, because I think they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel in Las Vegas. So I think there's just going to be a random game or two where Mayer might, just luck box his way into a couple of touchdowns or some decent yardage totals. And I think he's one of those very rare tight ends with contingent upside. If something happens to Bowers, then I think Mayer has the potential to be, somewhat of a focal point in that offense. So I don't mind him as a late flyer. I think he's, again, with Goddard and Likely, I feel like I can take a little bit of a punt on him. He's going to be unowned in most contests, and I think he makes a little bit of sense with Geno. I don't think you should go crazy with Mayer. And there's also the out that he could get traded somewhere where he's might get used a little more. But again, I think if everything really fires off right, it could almost be like a likely Andrew sort of situation, where obviously Bowers is significantly better than Andrews, but I could see Mayer having a role a little bit more likely this season. Again, that's like the bull case. The bear case is that this dude is just sitting on the bench and sucks. So don't think I'm not aware of that. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but for an 18th round tight end flyer, I think you could do worse. All right. So we will take Dante Thornton in the ideal world. If not, I will take somebody else. Let's see. Most tight ends are bad. Who Ames? He is alive. Yes, I was in Scotland. Who Ames? I was in Scotland and I could not draft, and I was just relegated to slow drafts in my phone, like between family stuff. And so I apologize. I did not need to abandon. I need to abandon the community. The trip had been planned for a long time. But unfortunately, I could not get on. I really wanted to get on at least once while I was there, and it just did not happen. Jack Betch for tight end 2 on the Raiders. Oh, no. At this point, I have a massive bag of Jack Betch now at like terrible ADP value. I think I'll have to check at some point what my big board Betch exposure was, but it really might be like 35%. And I felt so happy when he got drafted as high as he did. And now I feel kind of dumb because it's completely gone pear-shaped on me this season. But we'll see. I'm leaving the light on for old Jack Betch here. If we can add Will Shipley chasing to the team, I would be pretty happy. It would be like a little bit of an add to this Eagles bet. If not, again, it's sort of choose your own adventure with these backs. The only one I don't take a lot of is Justice Hill. I don't really understand the kind of excitement about Hill or that he's drafted in every single draft. If something happens to Henry, I think Justice Hill's job is going to be what Justice Hill's job is. I don't really see him getting any kind of bump. It'll be like, Rasheen Ali or whomever the heck else. They'd probably bring somebody in to be that just like, 3 yards and a cloud of dust kind of bruiser back, and he'd be sort of pass catcher, get a few touches a game. I guess Keaton Mitchell would see more work, but I don't know. I just don't necessarily feel like Justice Hill is like a 100% owned player, but yet he really is. The missile is that Keaton Mitchell. Yeah, I know. I saved the best for last. I'm hyping Rasheen Ali. I'm hyping last year's best ball bags of the rookie that we thought might be something, and I think he got hurt. He got hurt and like never saw the field. Yeah, Keaton is the click. I agree, Who Hames. I feel like Keaton absolutely would be the click over Hill. I think we're overthinking this one a little bit, or maybe underthinking it, because I don't see I don't see Hill getting that kind of like bump in workload. I think he is what he is, sort of like Eckler on the Commanders. Like he has a job, he's going to do that job, and whatever happens around him, it's somewhat irrelevant. It's and now let's see our friend Mr. Michael Mayer. We'll add him to the queue. If Juwan Johnson is there, I might just take Juwan Johnson ahead of Michael Mayer because I think Juwan Johnson is just a significantly better player and has a much more assured path to touches. I mean, he has broken slates before. I think he's still going to be pretty involved in that New Orleans offense. So I think it's getting a little too cute to just take my stack to force it. Okay, so Juwan Johnson goes. So now I don't feel like I'm getting cute. I'm just going to now say my guy got taken, and now I get to take Michael Mayer, assuming Dark Mark does not. All right, he takes Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So I will take Michael Mayer, and round out the team with Jalen Hurts, Drake May, and Geno Smith. This is a 3-5-7-3. running back room of Bijan, Bucky, Jordan Mason, Braylon Allen, and Will Shipley. So really leaning on these two anchors of Bijan and Bucky. Somewhat of a fragile build. Our late round, our Braylon and Shipley are definitely a little more contingent upside, although Braylon Allen could have a little bit more of a role, even if Brees is fully healthy. Wide receiver room of MHJ, Devonta Smith, Matthew Golden, Ricky Pearsall, Trey Harris, Kyle Williams, and Dante Thornton. So a pretty young room, quite a few rookies on this team. And then tight ends of Dallas Goedert, Isaiah Likely, and Michael Mayer. Don't mind this team. This is not the greatest team ever constructed, but at least it makes a certain amount of sense. We've got some stacks. We might have the QB1 on it. We might have the RB1 on it. And so I do not hate this team. But with that said, let's see if we can get a 30-second BBM. Let's see what happens. I'm going to hop into this and see what we're waiting for. 2. All right. So I will do this. If anyone wants to join, I will wait for this one to fill, because I think we can actually get this one filled today. I cannot remember if is today ADP chasing or ship chasing at 10. I can't remember if they come on Tuesday or Wednesday, because if so, I will cede the road to them at 10. Otherwise, I may keep on going. I will see what happens. But we are waiting for one. If anyone wants to hop in, and we are now full. We are full, and let's see what we get. So I think this is BBM 32 DMH09. Hartman. I think this is you, Hartman. And Ant X Wall. All right, so we got some friends and family in here. I am glad to see you here. I am at the 12 hole. All right. So lots of time between picks here. Appreciate you all for hopping in and filling this. Hartman says, yeah, at 5. Excellent. All right. I am glad you, or I'll bring you up. Yeah, at 5. All right. Awesome. And yep, 20 seconds to start. Again, I have not done BBM since I've been back, so it'll be interesting to see this. Again, I don't think this draft will be quite as fast and loose as the last one, although quite a few no badgers. The only red badges are people in this stream, and we've got 5 complete no badgers in here, 6 actually. So that is, let's see what we get. It's not always a good thing, because sometimes people with no badge can be very sharp, and sometimes they can just outright ruin your stacks or just make the room kind of wonky. But let's see. All right, so this time we do get Saquon at 2 and Jefferson at 3. And off we go with Hartman taking CD Lamb. All right. I did want to check and see if when ADP chasing is on, but I can do that after I make my picks. Mary Ann Jahan. There's also a chance that this one did not fill very quickly, so we could end up with some people autoing early on. You see that happen sometimes with these 30-second drafts where people join and then it takes 45 minutes to fill and they miss the first couple picks. So hopefully we don't get this slowed down too much. Ant X Wall takes Puka. There goes CMC at 9. Again, flipping Gene T as we have seen. There goes Gene T at 10. But I will get at least 2 receivers that I'm pretty excited about. So pretty happy with how that now goes at the 12 hole. It used to feel like you had to do weird stuff. Now it feels like the board kind of just comes to you. I know I've drafted with the Dane before. I don't know if you're in here, the Dane, but if you are, hello. But it looks like the Dane is going to get Amon-Ra unless they have other rankings in there. and I will just take Nico and BTJ. And there we go. All right. Nothing nothing too much needs to be said, I think, on those selections there. I really do like Drake London. I think in my heart of hearts, I like Drake London maybe a little bit more than I like BTJ, but I don't really want to get too wonky with my exposures at this point in the draft board. Do end up with Nico London teams. Usually though, I get that like in the 10 hole. So I don't mind just taking this this combination here. Do you think CMC will flip Gibbs? I don't. I don't think that. I definitely could see him flipping the wide receivers that go ahead of him, but I think Gibbs is kind of the sell wall. At that point, James is hoping that happens. I just think Gibbs was so dominant late in the season that it is going to be hard for that to happen. Like, we know Gibbs is healthy and in a good offense, whereas with CMC there is definitely some risk. I mean, that's why he was not a first round pick for most of this draft process up until now. There's also the chance that CMC just isn't as explosive as he was. And I think there's, people are a little bit bearish on Montgomery. I think he's been a bit of a faller lately. So I don't know. I think it would be hard for him to get past Gibbs, but it wouldn't shock me. It definitely wouldn't shock me. But if I had to make a bet, I think that's kind of like the line that gets held. I could see CMC getting up to 7. I just have a hard time seeing him ahead of him. But who knows? I mean, CMC is one of those guys that people take at the 101. Like, I never see people take Gibbs at the 101, but I see people take CMC at the 101. So maybe there's enough outliers like that to where if it's close enough, it'll get flipped. And again, maybe people should do that, like board flipping, take Gibbs at 1. I don't know. It just might not make sense. It might not make you unique enough to pass up, the truly elite, receiver of like Chase or Jefferson or, that you get there. But people definitely do just randomly take CMC at the 101. And X Wall, though, getting frisky in this draft, taking T. Higgins at 17. I don't hate that because he will not be there at 32 in all likelihood. So there's not going to be a lot of Puka Higgins teams. It also sets you up for a Burrow push. If you're going to get Higgins, when you get Higgins over here at 26, you have to get past everybody taking, who could snipe you on Burrow, where that's a lot less likely if your goal is to get him at 65. So I don't know if that's what you're doing, but I certainly see the vision if it is. Our friend Hartman gets Bowers at 20. I like that. Lamb and Bowers feels like a pretty darn good start in my book. Josh Allen at 26 feels early by underdog standards. You see that a lot more on DK. Allen typically ends up on this side of the board. So we're getting some interesting stuff. Definitely some interesting stuff in this draft. Although Ant X Wall, seeing Jamar, Chase, and Brown there, I would be stunned if our Doki does not snap off Burrow at the 4-5 turn. So interesting to see. A little bit of a little chess match brewing among the Bengal drafters. Hartman taking Terry McLaurin, not concerned about the holdout FUD. I hope that gets sorted out. That's one of those stories I don't want to hear. I just want the Commanders to be like good and fun. I don't want to be worried about, holding out and mucking with that, because that's like one of the more fun teams and stories in football right now. So let's just hope that gets sorted. Let's hope Deebo Samuel is not actually obese, because he's looked a little chunky out there on the practice field. But who among us doesn't, after a long cold winter. Ant X Wall going pure piss boy, taking Mike Evans at 32. So he gets Puka, Higgins, and Evans. And let's see what is coming to us. Let's see. Garrett Wilson goes. I would have absolutely loved Garrett Wilson had he fallen to me, but he did not. I will take Priest Hall here. And I might just be really unimaginative and go pure ADP and take Hall and Lamar. I don't take a whole ton of elite QB, but I might take that shot on this team. So I will I'll take Lamar Jackson, and we'll see how this team ends up. Yeah, again, I think with the 3 quarterback being such a popular meta, I'm almost inclined now to start zagging where everyone's zigging. And maybe that makes me a little more into elite quarterback where I can end at 2. I don't know. That's something I have to think about. And certainly taking Lamar does not preclude one from going 3 quarterback. It just means if I do, I might push it to later. I do like where the Jags and the Texans quarterback goes on the board because you can get them a little later in the draft, so you don't feel like you're really have to forego that kind of like last chance of receiver and running back that goes around there, or that goes ahead of there. Like if you have to take Nix and Kyler, they kind of go in a range where you're still interested in taking some of the position players, whereas when you're taking your Tuas, your Strouds, your Penix, your Lawrences, like you don't feel like you're foregoing as much position player value. So that has generally been my like preference in a vacuum, but obviously not something that I strictly adhere to, but just something I like to think about when I am building. Ant X Wall continues the piss boy, the only true piss boy left in here. Takes Xavier Worthy. So opening with 4 receivers. Hartman, he pairs up McLaurin with Daniels. And yeah, last round, somebody and the Schnauzer, they got McLaurin and Daniels on the right side of the board. This time it happens on the left. I am glad you were able to get Daniels. James Young says, nice start so far. Thanks, James. Yeah, I agree. Let's see if we can't land this plane. That would be fun because, again, don't have infinite BBM bullets, so I don't like when these go south, because some of them go south. And I will admit it. Skeletor, GM, glad to have you back, Chad Daddy. Yes, I am so glad to be back. Had a long planned family trip, and so I knew I'd be out, but I was hoping to be able to get on during the trip, and I could not. But I'm happy to be back. Crossface, yo, GM. Thank you, Crossface, for coming by today. I really appreciate it. So it looks like in a bit of an upset, instead of taking Burrow, the one hole does the Devontae Hurts stack, which I certainly like. Like I would rather have Hurts than Burrow. I think it's crazy to take Burrow ahead of Hurts, even if you have Chase. I don't think that's just good process. I think Hurts is just projects so much better. So this does potentially set up our friend Ant X Wall to get Burrow to pair with Higgins, if that's what he wants to do. We'll see if that is his plan or not. But that could not have run out better, because I was pretty sure once this guy took 2 Bengals with his first 2 picks, he was then going to add the QB. But when Smith and Hurts is staring at you at the turn, that's pretty enticing. Like I really like this team that the one hole has built. To me, that's a pretty good run out for them. I was, Flowers just never makes it back to 60. That would have been far too much to ask, but would have been nice if we got that natural pairing. Our friend Hartman takes Calvin Ridley. He's a guy I really like this season, so I like that pick. Getting ready for mine. There is the 2 big fallers in Ken Walker and RJ Harvey. They have been sliding on injury news and the Dobbins signing, respectively. Let's see what we get here. So there goes Ken Walker. I am likely to just add 2 two receivers here. My next pick will be at 84 and 85. If I look at ADP, where does that put running back? It gets pretty grim, huh? I might not get one that I want. So this might end up, again, just taking Alvin Kamara, and Addison's going to be suspended the first 3 games. And when that gets announced, I think he's going to fall. So I might just wait for that fall to kind of pack more Addison bags. And I will take, I'll just take Juwan Jennings here, who I still like quite a bit. I don't think anything else makes too much sense on this team. So I will add Jennings to the crew. Oh no, there goes Joe Burrow to the Dane. You hate to see it, Ant X-Fall. If that's who you wanted, I am sorry. I definitely thought he was going to get to you. But, anytime you can take unstacked Burrow and pair him with Amon-Ra and Ted McMillan, you simply must do it to protect the integrity of the tournament. So Jennings also gives me a potential Purdy at 108, 109 as a second QB. And again, if I had Lamar and Purdy, there's a pretty good chance I just shut it down at quarterback there. Ant X Wall then takes a 5th receiver. No running backs. Pure 0 RB Ant X Wall. You love to see it. Hartman, the Dane, protecting the integrity of the game. I know. See, if it didn't happen to one of the friends and family of this channel, I would enjoy it a lot more. But I do want you all to succeed. And again, I did not want to see someone undermined by the Dane. But that's what happens when you play with the Dane. You just don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know what you're going to get. Hartman taking Travion Henderson, just a very balanced team built so far. Although I shouldn't say balanced. When your first running back is in round 6, that is going a little more, sort of erring towards 0 RB than any kind of truly balanced build. But again, when you take the elite quarterback, you kind of got to make some sacrifices. I tend not to do too much elite quarterback because it feels less comfortable. But again, I don't know if you win BBM by being comfortable. So, don't mind trying some stuff because, the elite QBs can truly separate. It's just, whether that separation happens in the playoff weeks is really going to be the big question. So our one hole takes a couple of running backs. I think for me, again, probably in the market for a running back and a receiver. If it goes purely by ADP and the next running backs on the board are Brian Robinson and Jordan Mason, I will not take one, and I will just hope I can find another running back in the next round. I don't think those two are worth pushing anything up for, and we will just see what other positions we can get, because those two I am not super high on, and that's why I took Kamara, because I'm just really not too interested in either of those guys, just in general or here. Usually I don't go elite at both onesies. Can be a tough spot to build out of. Well, I have faith that you can land this plane. I love the Debo pick. That's a nice little value there, getting him at 77, building the double stack with Jaden Daniels. I like what's going on. Ant X Wall takes Pacheco. That would definitely have been someone I was interested in. I will be very happy if I can get Tony Pollard. If I cannot, then I will cry softly into a pillow. And there goes Pollard. So not great, folks. Not great. But, anytime you can just take Darnell Mooney, you got to do it. I think this is just going to be, again, I kind of take what the room gives us. I will take Mooney and Hawkinson. Maybe an argument that I should take Shakir here, but I just really prefer Mooney to Shakir. I feel like Shakir is just one of those guys who kind of is what he is. Hard to envision massive spikes coming out of there from Khalil Shakir. I think that offense is going to be very spread out. Mooney showed us a lot of explosiveness. I'm very bullish on the Falcons this season. So happy to take him at ADP again. If I'm not taking Shakir 8 picks after ADP, I'm probably not going to get a lot of Shakir. And I think I'm just generally okay with that. Hawkinson, a guy that I like quite a bit. He looked really good at the end of last season. I think all of us are, I want to say excited, but we're all like hopeful about the Vikings offense. We're hopeful about JJ McCarthy. If he actually is a competent passer, then I think Hawkinson could be in line for a good season over there in Minnesota. Potentially get a little bump in early season production if Addison is out. Although again, I don't really want to factor in the Addison absence too much, especially knowing now that it's going to happen early and not late. I say knowing, but I think we're pretty certain that this suspension is going to happen early in the season. Ant X Wall, nice consolation prize for not getting Burrow, getting Mahomes there to stack with Worthy. That's pretty strong there. I really like Mahomes. To me, it is a little crazy that we're taking, Burrow, 25 picks ahead of Mahomes or even more. I think there's a chance that we see some regression from the defense in Kansas City. We see some, more towards pushing the pace and passing in Kansas City. So I'm never upset to end up with Mahomes. I think we're kind of, unfairly maligning them because the expectations were so high from 3 years ago. I don't know. I am not ready to write off that Kansas City offense as being one that really could be the kind of skeleton key to best ball glory this season. Our friend Hartman takes Jordan Mason. Pick makes sense. Just building a good team there. Henderson and Mason, a little thin at running back, but certainly guys that have at the very least have a good role and should end up with a potential contingent upside. I think Henderson I was very high on until the coach speak came out a little bit more about Ramondre, and I'm worried it's going to be more of a 50-50 split than we want because Ramondre just looked so bad last year. But it is hard to judge some of the Patriots offense last season. It was just such a bad year that, again, I'm willing to give some of the guys a pass. I've been taking a little more Ramondre, but still pretty excited about what Travion brings to the table. But he definitely is, to me, a little more closer to that Caleb Judkins category than where he was earlier, where he was a little bit more in kind of a tier of his own and nearer to the Mixon Hubbard range. So let's see the one hole. He takes a couple of rookie receivers coming back around for me. I probably do want one more running back, but again, we can be a little bit patient. I think this is kind of Bateman range. So if Bateman's there, he would just make a lot of sense to pair with Lamar. Anytime you have Lamar, you can potentially just wait on tight end. So maybe there was something to be said for taking Shakir there and then pushing towards Andrews, or likely going 3 late tight ends, but really high on Hawkinson this year. So again, just different ways to build, just different things to think about. 8 picks away. Yeah. So Andrews there right at 107, but he's not always there. So it's not, did not necessarily want to rely on that, especially it looks like none of these guys other than Ant X Wall has a tight end at this point. Agree. Henderson, more of a late season guy. IMO. Yeah, that's what it feels like. And again, it's hard to know, new coaching staff. So he's going to be, he's new regime. I think that there's a chance that Ramondre gets phased out, but I think that's one of those things that we all want to happen. And then veterans, just incumbency is so powerful. We don't necessarily get what we want as best ball slappies. So interesting coming around to us. I probably will just queue up Bateman because I think he makes a ton of sense. Running backs, a little sketchy. I don't think I really need to take one of these quarterbacks at this point. So Bateman will be one of the clicks. I think I prefer Charbonnet to Etienne a little bit. Evan Ingram has been rising quite a lot. I could potentially take Bateman and Evans, or Bateman and Ingram, and then end at 2 tight ends. Wouldn't necessarily hate doing that. I'll click off Bateman here and then pause for another second. I might just be overthinking it. I think I need a third running back, and I'm going to take Charbonnet. You know, if this Ken Walker thing gets worse, Charbonnet is going to end up being a big riser, and maybe just makes sense to kind of pack that bag now while it's still somewhat affordable. And again, there's potential one of those guys gets moved. That always comes up when you're talking about the Seattle backfield. So we'll add Charbonnet to the team. Going over it so far, we've got Lamar, and then at running back, we got Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, and Zach Charbonnet. Wide receiver room of Nico Collins, BTJ, Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, and Rashad Bateman, with a tight end of TJ Hawkinson. So again, drafting at the turn, sometimes you really got to take what the room gives you. It's unfortunate when you have to reach and you don't get the value falling to you, but there's just simply don't have a lot of control when you're here, and you can't push anybody realistically, that you're considering taking without taking just a huge punt. So it is one of those interesting spots to draft for, and you can get very different teams depending on what the room is doing. And this room, didn't give me any kind of huge falling value. ATX Bearcat, GM, thank you so much for stopping by today. I still am not sure if ADP chasing is at 10. I need to look that up. So let me see if I can figure that out. Again, I don't want to go up against ADP chasing. Let's see. View channel. Let's see. So they come on at 10. Okay. All right. So they are on at 10. So I will, this will probably be my last draft here, because there is no way to fire up another one and have that wrap up in time. All right, let's see. Ant X Wall. So he gets Scatabo, one of my favorite players, and then the aforementioned Travis Etienne, a guy all of us wish would go away on Jacksonville, but might end up just being being the main guy, which would just kill all of us Tootin Slappies and Bigsby people. And then, the LeQuint Allen truthers out there, they're out there. But yeah, Travis Etienne might just be the guy. But Hartman, our friend Hartman, is still part of Slappy Nation, taking Bayshell 2. And let's see, Hartman says the guy at 2 has an interesting build. So he's got Saquon, Rice, and Allen. Yeah, so he pulled Allen up. Then Sutton, Pickens, Laporta, Swift, Kelsey, Warren, Jonnu. So yeah, he's already got 3 elite tight ends, and then takes QJ. Oh, Hartman, go to bed. I had the wrong comment up. Hartman had the guy in 2 has interesting bill, and then Crossface is telling you to go to bed. Hartman, do get some sleep at some point if you have truly been up all night. I don't know what Crossface was referring to, but I do hope you are able to get some sleep. All right, so let's see what comes to us. There is potential for Ramondre. He's there. Wide receivers, we have hit the wide receiver cliff and flown off of it. I think T-Law not Ray Davis. All right. T-Law makes the most sense. Stroud is there. I mean, I could just get really gross and just take T-Law and Stroud and make this triple elite-ish, or I don't want to say elite, but take 3 QBs. I'm not really excited about any of these running backs. If I don't get Tajay Spears or Ray Davis, am I really that sad about it? I don't think so. I'm just doing this. We're going to get a little loose here. We're going to get a little loose, and we're going to have Lamar, T-Law, and Stroud. We're going to have a very good quarterback room. and just hope that we nailed it with Brees Hall and Alvin Kamara. Because again, am I really sad that I passed on Ray Davis or Jaden Blue? Like that much different than, this Roshan, Allen, Wright, Dowdle range of like contingent value. This is also mostly contingent value here. And then the wide receiver room, like it's disgusting. It's disgusting at this point in the draft. Like this is why most of the time I find myself passing on elite QB because this could be a really good running back or receiver. And then I just got T-Law and Stroud as my QB 1 and 2. So that's why it's very tempting to build like that. Again, I don't know if it made sense for me to take 2 QBs there. This is a lot of draft capital on quarterback. But I don't know. I got 3 I got 3 good quarterbacks. So again, we will see. I have paired my my wide receiver 1 and 2. And again, it should be at least a very robust team. If this was an eliminator team, I'd be feeling pretty darn good. 4 hours is plenty of sleep, brother. Well, let me tell you, I have been up since 2 a.m. Because we flew back yesterday, and my kid is still not adjusted, and so he woke up at 2, and so Dad was playing with him for 5 hours before I got to drop him off. So I am ready for bed. It is 9:25 in the morning, and I am tired. I thought about actually like starting this stream at like something ridiculously early and just trying to go for like 5 hours, but I couldn't quite pull it off. But that was I thought that would have been a good bit. Just me streaming into the void, just people sign on at 8:30 and see that I've been streaming for 4 hours. But maybe I'll try that another time. But let's see. Ant X Wall, he gets a couple of favorites. He gets Tyler Warren, love the pick there, and Trey Benson, some nice contingent value. Let me see. I don't know. I don't think you have a Arizona thing, but you do maybe a little bit of a bring back on T. Higgins. Hartman takes Dak, so he gets the stack with Lamb, and for J.K. Dobbins, who again, huge riser. It's funny. He was a guy that you could take along with, I am now blanking, who was Najee Harris. Him and Najee Harris were pretty darn close in the big board. And it looks like Najee Harris got the dream spot, and then they drafted Hampton. So Harris plummeted. Now Dobbins goes to Denver. I don't know. Would it surprise me if Dobbins ends up with a better season than Najee? Probably a little bit, but it wouldn't be like the most shocking thing in the world if Najee won the battle, but Dobbins wins the war. I do think Najee is going to be a thorn in all of us Hampton sides this season. I think he could end up scoring quite a few touchdowns and being more fantasy relevant than we necessarily would love to see. But let's see. Not a couple of bad options here. I really like Algier and Bigsby. If I could get them, I would be happy, but I cannot. I could do Bigsby and Strange here and then add to my little Jags thing I have going. I think I like that the most. Definitely Bigsby. I'm pretty high on Roshan Johnson. He makes a lot of sense. As far as receiver, again, I don't know how much McMillan or Dubs adds versus some of the guys I can get later. So I'll add Bigsby to the crew. And again, I just think Strange just makes a lot of sense insofar as I have T-Law, and now I've got, a pretty big bet on Jacksonville, and then I've got my other QBs stacked. So, considering that we took 2 quarterbacks with our last picks, I think they do make sense in terms of how this team is structured and is going to end up. So I don't know. Again, it's getting a little thin. This team might look a lot better if this was DJ Moore instead of Lamar, or Ted McMillan instead of Lamar, but maybe not. I mean, Lamar really can potentially separate on one of those weeks. So let's see. I do not mind how this has come together. Ant X Wall, he gets Braylon Allen. Nice selection there. And Hartman is on the clock. Ant X Wall is finishing up his shift, working overnight. Well, thank you, Ant X Wall, for keeping the lights on. My wife occasionally has overnight shifts, and I know that is that can be pretty tough. And so whatever you're doing, thank you for keeping the lights on in working hard. If the slappies are right, then my RB room is elite, says Hartman. So Hartman takes Firemuth. Yeah, Jaden Blue, Dobbins, Tootin, Mason, Henderson. Yeah, that is Slappy approved. You definitely get your Slappy rations today. So please see your local Slappy commissar, and he might even get an extra one. We'll see. I don't know though. They're pretty strict these days. But yes, a very Slappy friendly room. Let's see. So Hartman, you currently have Daniels and Dak. Looking at your QB situation, and Ant X Wall, you've got Mahomes and Mahomes. Okay, interesting. Let's see if you end up with which late QBs you add to the crew, if any. I am guessing that you're going to try to add a Daniel Jones to the team. That is my guess, or I guess Stafford hasn't gone. So no, Stafford did go. Okay, well, you are fully in the Mahomes or bust basket. GM Lutz, thank you so much for coming by this morning. So much appreciate having you here. I was just bragging about being up the longest. Yeah, no, it was an early morning for me. I have to say that, and we're just doing our best. I'm tired. I had to drive on the wrong side of the road. That's not so much fun, but I figured it out. Everyone's an atheist until they have to enter one of those like 3-lane roundabouts where they're driving on the left, and I felt like I was taking my life into my hands with my like entire family in the car. But I made it. I made it. Only had to go around an extra loop a couple of times in those crazy European roundabouts that I don't know. I don't know why they have them. I know they say they keep the traffic moving, but they seem to keep traffic moving into one another. But anyway, jet lag is real. Yes. Thank you, Lutz. I know I'm a little loopy this morning, but I'm just getting back into the groove and doing my best. Ant X Wall, he takes Michael Wilson. So again, another bring back on his T. Higgins and a little bet on the Cards with Trey Benson there. Now, looking at my team, I could use pretty much anything but a quarterback. Nick Chubb is there. My God. I had not taken Nick Chubb in the big board, but maybe I should. I could take Diami Brown, but is that too much Jacksonville? I don't know. I really do like Diami Brown this season. I'm just going to queue him up, but I may or may not actually take him. I guess if I'm ever going to take Nick Chubb, it would be on this team where we have this like kind of team that makes sense. Where he would make sense on. So I'm going to take Nick Chubb and then think about receiver. I am so out on Hopkins. I know he pairs with Lamar Jackson, but I feel like Hopkins is really pure dust. I could take Dalton Schultz instead of Brown, but again, I think I need another receiver more than I need that tight end. So I'm going to take Diami Brown here again and add one more Jags team. Have I reached the tipping point where it's too many? Quite possibly, but we'll see. So going over the team, we're now at a 3-5-6-2. We've got Lamar, T-Law, and Stroud. So we are stacked at quarterback. Running back room of Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, and Nick Chubb. Wide receiver room of Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, and Diami Brown. And a tight end room of TJ Hawkinson and Brenton Strange. So I think my difficulty is deciding what positions to end with. I think I want one more tight end in this room. I think I'd like to end this on 3. And if I did that, would I want to make a 3-6-6-3 or a 3-5-7-2? And I guess that would just depend on the quality of running back coming back to me. A little bit of a tough choice. My wide receiver room is a little thinner than I'd like, although Collins and BTJ really should hold it down. But I guess my worry is that I'm not really sure my flex is going to be hit by a running back when it's Sharps, Bigsby, and Chubb. That's pretty thin there too. So again, we'll see if we are able to land this plane or not. Meanwhile, Ant X Wall takes Darius Slayton. So is this a Jackson Dart team? We will find out. Hartman asked how Scotland was. Scotland's really cool. I enjoyed it. It's very beautiful. Drove around the Highlands, drove around Isle of Skye. Very, very pretty, idyllic country up there. Pretty nice. Very expensive. I liked it. But I somehow managed to go to Scotland and not play any golf or have any whiskey though. So I feel like I kind of just failed miserably as an elder millennial, because I think that's the only reason you go to Scotland, and I did neither of those things. But that's also what happens when you travel with your parents and a very young child. You don't get to do the things you necessarily are. The country is most known for. It always feels good with Mooney at wide receiver 4. Crossface, thank you. I like the optimism. I like Mooney as my wide receiver 4. See, you're on the sunny side of the bus with Mooney as wide receiver 4, and I'm on the other side of the bus with Jennings at wide receiver 3. Like, that's not great. But Mooney at 4, you know what? You're right. I like it. I like the team. And I do like this team. Again, I'm just a little torn as to whether I want to add another running back to the mix or another receiver to the crew. And I'm almost leaning towards 3-6-6-3. I don't do a ton of that. I don't know if that's necessarily the best build, but I feel a little bit like taking another swing at one of these late running backs to the crew. I am a dark-skinned Hispanic, but my last name is from Scotland. Wall. That's awesome. They have all the books that show like for the family history. So I'm sure you would have had Wall would have been one of them in there, and it'll have the crest and all the information. And people like going to Scotland because they are very much about their family history. They have one of the big war memorials, and you can like look up your whole family's like service record at like a lot from the First and Second World War. So pretty interesting stuff there. So Ant X, while he takes A-Rich, interesting. Daniel Jones went there. So betting on A-Rich, I am coming up, and boy, I am still Hopkins is still here. Okay, so Hopkins goes. So I think I'm just gonna take Schultz as my last tight end. I don't love Schultz, but he does make sense. And then at running back, I'm really high on Brashard Smith. I think I'm going to make this a 3-6-6-3 team. I'm certainly taking Brashard. And then the question is another receiver or another tight end. I don't know if any of these receivers are really calling to me as far as making sense here. So I'm going to take Schultz. This is an interesting point on the team for me. I think you could take this a lot of different ways, but I'll wrap it up with Schultz here and just see what happens. I don't love Schultz because I feel like that he had opportunity in Houston and kind of didn't do anything last season, but they didn't bring in any competition there. So again, I think you can end the team a lot of different ways. Also, I don't know if my 18th round pick is going to make or break this team, but it does, every pick is very important here. Coker in the 17th feels just as good. Yeah, I quite like that. I actually got Coker as Mr. Irrelevant in one of my schnauzers last night. I had the 101 and nobody took him. And I was just like, all right, this is way better than like my Isaac Tesla, Ty Felton guys who I'm just hoping like see the field. At least that's what it seems like to me. Crossface asks a league winner. Are you talking Coker? We'll see. I have a fair amount of Coker on other teams. It probably will not be Dalton Schultz. I do not think Dalton Schultz will be the league winner. So let's see. This team ended up being a 3-6-6-3 build. with Lamar, T-Law, and Stroud. Running back room of Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Nick Chubb, and Brashard Smith. Wide receivers, Nico Collins, BTJ, Juwan Jennings, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, and Diami Brown. So a little top heavy, maybe a little thin, but not too terrible. I like the tight ends, Hawkinson, Strange, and then Schultz. Again, Schultz, a little bit of ADP value, although that's somewhat illusory late in the draft, but he does pair with one of my quarterbacks. Let's see what our friends ended up with. Hartman has Daniels. Okay. It always does this. Not Chetty. I don't care about you, Chetty. Sorry. Daniels, Dak, and Cam Ward at quarterback. Travion Henderson, Jordan Mason, Bashal Tootin, J.K. Dobbins, Jaden Blue, and Taj Brooks. The most slappy running back room you will see in your life. Hartman, thank you for presenting that to the class. It is a fantastically slappy room. Wide receiver room of CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman, Calvin Austin III, Jalen Coker. Strong wide receiver room. I like these guys. And then the two tight ends of Bowers and Freiermuth. Again, makes a lot of sense. You got Bowers, so you really don't need to add the third tight end. I like your team. Hartman, Ant X Wall, Mahomes, A-Rich, and Dart. So really leaning on early Mahomes, but he's got a week 10 bye, which is good because you probably one of these two hopefully will be starting by then. I hope A-Rich his shoulder is okay. A little bit of a scary click there. Pacheco, Scatabo, Etienne, Benson, Garendo, and Allen. So a true zero RB build, but Pacheco, I like Pacheco. He's been rising in boards. He seems healthy. Scatabo, my favorite player in this entire contest. And then a lot of contingent upside and, potentially just the RB1 in Jacksonville and an offense we're excited about. So I like what you've done there. The team kind of tells a story. Wide receiver room of Puka, Higgins, Evans, Worthy, Godwin, very strong first five, and then Wilson and Slayton added in at the end. Slayton, of course, pairing with Dart. And then Kittle and Tyler Warren, who's wearing a suit for some reason. Got to like that. So, yeah, I like that team. Again, you took Kittle, so it makes sense to only need two, especially with Warren, a very strong tight end two. I wanted Russ and got sniped. I missed that. So that does make sense. Ant X Walt, nice squad, very balanced. Hartman, very nice of you to say. I do like the team, and I appreciate you all for drafting with me. And so yeah, I like how this team. I like how my team ended up. I like how your all's teams ended up. And yeah, again, thanks everybody for hanging out today. Ship chasing or ADP chasing, I always get mixed up on which show is which, but they come on at 10. I highly recommend watching that. If you have not liked and subscribed, please like and subscribe. That helps me out. We are now on the road to 200. But again, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm so glad to be back, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone.